Let's take a step back in time to the heart of Los Angeles, the 1920s. Picture the glamour, flapper dresses, jazz bands, neon signs flickering to life. But behind the glitz and Art Deco charm, downtown LA was hiding a dark underbelly. A lot of people romanticize the Roaring Twenties as a time of excitement and rebellion. But in LA, it was a different story. The city was exploding with growth. People were flooding in, chasing dreams of Hollywood, fortune, or just a fresh start. But with that rapid growth came chaos. LA didn't expand with a plan, it expanded like wildfire. Neighborhoods sprang up with no regulation, and whole communities were built practically overnight with little oversight. That kind of lawless development created the perfect storm for vice to settle in and thrive. Instead of a structured, thriving metropolis, LA became a checkerboard of opportunity, not just for hopefuls, but for hustlers. Downtown LA was a magnet for crime, corruption, and vice. Skid Row, already a thing, and the area surrounding it was even wilder. Gambling dens, brothels, bootlegging operations, you name it, it was there. Prohibition didn't stop people from drinking, it just forced them to find creative, illegal ways to get their fix. Speakeasies were everywhere, often just behind a false wall or a trap door in a legitimate business. Liquor was smuggled in by the barrel, often from Mexico, and sold at a premium in smoky backrooms. But alcohol was just the tip of the iceberg. Drugs, human trafficking, and contract killings were all part of the criminal ecosystem. And it wasn't just low-level street thugs, it was organized. Mobsters saw LA as untapped territory, a fertile ground where bribes could replace bullets and politics could be bought. And the LAPD? Let's just say they weren't exactly saints in all this. The department was notoriously corrupt. Officers were regularly on the payroll of bootleggers and madams. Raids were staged for the press, but behind the scenes, cops took bribes to look the other way. Some were even involved in running the illegal businesses themselves. It was almost like the law was just another gang in town. If you were a powerful criminal, you didn't fear the police, you partnered with them. Promotions and assignments within the force were often influenced by who paid more, not who did the job better. That created a city where trust and authority crumbled. Citizens didn't report crimes because they didn't expect justice. They expected cover-ups. They expected silence. One of the most infamous hotspots was the Plaza area, right around Olvera Street. Today it's a tourist destination, but back then it was packed with shady characters. The hotels were run-down flophouses filled with drifters and dealers. Alleyways were like open-air markets for stolen goods, and everyone, from the bootlegger on the corner to the cop patrolling the block, seemed to have some kind of hustle going. You could buy anything: drugs, fake papers, guns, even people. And you didn't need to go far. The area was so dense with vice that it only took a few blocks to find everything you needed. People lived in a strange coexistence with crime. Some feared it, others relied on it. Entire families were raised in those conditions, learning to navigate a world where the line between legal and illegal was blurry at best. Even the local government was in on it. City Hall was known for its backdoor deals, politicians were backed by crime bosses, and zoning laws barely enforced. That's how entire illegal industries could flourish in broad daylight. It wasn't just crime, it was infrastructure for crime. The buildings, the businesses, the power grid, everything was feeding into a system of underground economy. Mayors and councilmen made public speeches about progress while attending private parties funded by criminals. Policies were shaped not by the needs of the people, but by who had the deepest pockets. When officials were caught, they rarely faced consequences. The machine protected itself. That environment bred a culture of cynicism, where people believed that corruption wasn't an exception. It was the norm. Meanwhile, the media played a weird double role. On one hand, they were exposing the corruption, publishing scandal after scandal, but on the other hand, those headlines sold papers. The more violent, the more twisted, the better. Murder, vice, scandal, it was all good for business. Reporters loved the chaos. Crime photographers would rush to scenes to capture blood-soaked sidewalks and crying victims. And the public? They couldn't get enough. People followed crime stories like today's true crime podcasts. It was entertainment, a distraction. a grim soap opera happening right outside their doors. Some newspapers even glamorized the criminals, turning mobsters into celebrities. That kind of sensationalism didn't just reflect the city's problems, it fueled them, feeding the mythos of LA as a land of sin and seduction. Downtown LA in the 1920s was like a noir film, except it was all real. Real bodies, real betrayals, real horror hiding beneath the glimmer of Hollywood's rising star. Tourists didn't see it, newcomers didn't believe it, but locals, they lived it. They knew that walking down the wrong street at night could mean getting mugged, beaten, or worse. People carried weapons. Some refused to go out after dark. Others just accepted the danger as part of life. Bars had security, not to check IDs, but to watch for assassins. Apartment buildings were fortified. People whispered about unsolved murders, mysterious disappearances, and shootouts that never made the papers. This was daily life, not fiction, not exaggeration. And it didn't really start to change until years later, when the city finally cracked down on corruption, when Hollywood grew so powerful it overshadowed everything else, and when freeways started pulling people out of downtown and into the suburbs. The decentralization of the city spread the population out, and with it, the criminal networks had to shift too. Slowly, the grip loosened. Reforms in the LAPD, public exposure of political corruption, and a changing national culture started to shift the tides. But that era, that wild, dangerous, gritty version of LA, it left a permanent mark. You can still feel it in the old buildings, in the underground tunnels, in the way the city distrusts authority. That history never really went away. It lingers, in the stories, in the legends, and in the DNA of the city itself. Downtown LA in the 1920s wasn't the glamorous postcard people like to remember. It was gritty, it was brutal, and it was absolutely, undeniably real. And if you peel back enough layers today, you can still find traces of it. In the shadows of the high-rises, in the cracks of the sidewalks, and in the stories this city tries so hard to forget. The past doesn't stay buried in LA. It leaks through, in the architecture, in the streets, and in the way Angelenos still navigate the blurry line between dream and nightmare.